all the faithful, hear our supplications, and through thy infinite love and mercy, graciously grant us the strength and power in our thoughts and decisions to be for the benefit of all people at all times. Amen.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Barrison.
Here.
Councilwoman Francois. Mayor Kramer.
Here.
Councilman Onijaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Batosnik.
Present.
Councilwoman Pruitt. Councilwoman Udine. Councilman Vasanella.
Here.
Councilman Wright.
We're on item number 5 of the agenda. Copies of the agenda are up next to the clerk. We're going to hold off on the first item on the commendations and proclamations because Councilwoman Francois isn't here yet. She should be here a little late. The second one is a recognition proclamation by Councilman Wright.
Hello. That didn't sound too enthusiastic. Hello. Hello. That sounded better. I love it. Oh, I want the family too. Come on. Come on. Bring the family too. You don't want your family to come up? Yeah. She wanted to kick him to the curb, actually, but, you know. Let me go roll this around a little bit. Got a big voice. What grade are you in?
Fifth.
5th grade? Mm-hmm. What school you go to?
Connolly Road School.
No, spell it real slow.
C-O-N-E-R-L-Y.
Now, you see, that's why she should go down to the script spelling bee. Okay? We're going to have a poem. And being this is Black History Month, I invited her here to Black History Month. I wanted her to say a couple words, and I didn't want a grown-up, because they can do anything. I wanted somebody young, because when they're young, you can catch them early, you can train them, and they just grow right on up to be future leaders. See, all those people up here, never mind. This is what you need in America. This is what you need because when they grow up, they can handle business, take care of business, and they become worthwhile citizens. Just like all of us in here have children, and when they grow up, we want them to be what? Worthwhile citizens. In addition to making money so they can take care of who? Us. Okay, that's the reason why you want to have children. Okay, let me do the proclamation and then give the mic to her, and she can do what she needs to do, because I understand the little one definitely has to go home, right? No? She's trying to hang out, too. Okay. Certificate of Recognition. Mariah Godbolt Thomas. She
This will turn around.
Whereas Mariah Godbolt Thomas is a 5th grade student who loves to learn, has a positive attitude, and puts forth her best effort when it comes to academic excellence. And whereas Mariah has been involved in the Gifted and Talented program since the 3rd grade and is currently an active participant in the newspaper club, as she has a love for writing and research. I thought I was doing something wrong. And whereas Mariah has been reciting poetry from the age of 3 and has performed at numerous community events and churches in New Jersey. And whereas Mariah is often called upon when a youth poet is needed and aspires to one day hold the title of National Youth Poet Laureate. And now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the Franklin Township, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, hereby commend and recognize Mariah Godbolt Thomas for her exemplary accomplishments and wish her well in future endeavors. Signed, Carl Wright, 4th Ward Councilman, and Mayor Kramer. Now, February the 14th, 2023. Now, I'm going to give her the microphone, and I want everybody to be quiet. Shh. Want the podium? No, just.
This poem is about Katherine Johnson. My name is Katherine Johnson. I am a physicist and mathematician. When I was little, I loved to count everything. At 10, I was a freshman in high school, at a time when many kids had to stop at the 8th grade. I graduated high school at 14 and college at 18. In 1953, I started working at NASA. I was called a computer before computers were even created. I calculated the path for Alan Shepard, the first American in space, and was part of many other missions. In 2015, I received a medal from President Obama. If you want to hear more of my story, you can watch the movie, Hidden Figures. Thank you.
Learn something from the movie Hidden Figures. I sure enough did. Gifted and talented. Even holds on to the microphone. I had to have the guy come out the booth to tell me, where's the mic? When you belong to gifted and talented, it means that you have a little bit going on. And as you go along, you grab more and more. So that the next time, see, Boston University ain't nothing. Harvard, MIT, when I was up there, that was something up there. College Town. Princeton sounds good, you know. Yeah, well, Boston University sounds real good. But when you get there and all of a sudden people realize that you have a big brain, make yourself comfortable and do your mother and your father and your little sister who's got to go to bed proud of what you accomplish. Okay? Come on, now, we do better than that. Come on. Thank you, Ms. Godbolt Thomas. Thank you. Oh, wait. Away without this. That belongs to you. Okay? Thank you. Yeah. Who's next? Just me? I get to run my mouth some more? No? Okay.
Yes, Councilman Vasanella has a proclamation.
Well, until he comes
Wherever
down,
you'd
I'll
like.
entertain you. Okay? Go for it.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You got the
I
floor.
want to make sure you give me the floor. Okay, so I don't know how many people have been keeping their eye on the years as they're ticking by quicker than one would want to, but most of us know that in 3 years we'll be celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country's independence. All over the country and the county, they're starting to get groups together to plan spectacular events, and I think that's all wonderful and supported wholeheartedly. What I've been thinking about the last few years and learning more and more about is our township, Franklin Township, who, for those who don't know, was incorporated in 1798. So if you do the math real fast, most of you might see that right now we are at what is maybe not looked at as much by many as a really important milestone, but we're at the 225th anniversary of our township. So I think it's a milestone worth recognizing, and I think it's amazing that, although actually there was a lot going on here prior to it being incorporated, there's a whole history I won't go into now of settlers here long before that, but 22 years after the independence of our country, we formally incorporated and became known as what is now Franklin Township, with 8 villages and even a few other areas sometimes referred to. But I wanted to acknowledge what I say, important birthday of this town, especially as the country and our area of New Jersey get ready to celebrate a quite substantial history for our 250th anniversary of our nation's independence. So, commemorating the 25th anniversary of the Township of Franklin, whereas the Township of Franklin, Somerset County, New Jersey, celebrates the 225th anniversary in the year 2023, and it is fitting to recognize the Township of Franklin on the occasion of this special milestone and to applaud its distinguished history. And whereas the Township of Franklin was incorporated as a municipality in the state of New Jersey on February 24th, 1798, has a total area of approximately 47 square miles, which includes villages of Blackwell's Mills, East Millstone, Franklin Park, Griggstown, Middlebush, Kingston, and Zarephath. And whereas the township grew from primarily a farming community in the 19th century to a suburban community in the 20th century. And whereas the township today is comprised of 68,364 residents and provides many facilities and attractions, including municipal, county, and state parks, historic houses, nature trails, a senior community center, a youth center, library, and other branches of the library. And whereas in recognition of the Township of Franklin's rich and diverse history and enduring contributions, it is indeed an honor to pay tribute to this township upon the occasion of its 225th anniversary. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that congratulations are sent to the Township of Franklin and all of its residents on their 225th anniversary, and its residents are to be enthusiastically recognized as they celebrate this auspicious occasion. And technically, it's in 10 days from tonight, but since this is the last council meeting before that date, I thought it was appropriate for us to read this this evening. And what we thought about, the manager mentioned about an idea of who and how to present this, but I'm going to leave this with our manager in hopes that something I'll mention during my council comments, this may be able to be used for that project, which I'll mention at council comments again. So happy birthday to all of Franklin. God bless you, and look forward to another 225 years. Thank you.
Well, Councilwoman Francois had a proclamation for Black History Month. She isn't here, but Wright is offered to present it. Did such a good job last time.
Hi. Okay. I'm taking over for Miss Kimberly Francois, Councilwoman at Large. I was kind of hoping she slipped through the door, but, you know. Okay. Proclamation. Whereas Black History Month is an occasion to rediscover the enduring stories of African Americans and the gifts of freedom, purpose, and opportunity that they have bestowed on future generations. And whereas it is also a time to commemorate the countless contributions of African Americans, many of whom lived through and surmounted the scourge of segregation, racial prejudice, and discrimination to enrich every fiber of American life. Their examples of heroism, patriotism, and enterprise have given people all the backgrounds, confidence, courage, and faith to pursue their own dreams. And whereas the many local organizations and many individuals throughout our township are dedicated to the principle of fostering civil, economic, and educational programs throughout the Township of Franklin, and are dedicated to encouraging reflection on the rich history and teachings of African Americans and bearing witness to the progress, beauty, and achievements they have made throughout our community. And whereas Black History Month is a call to teach and every citizen of our community to reflect on the cultural, scientific, political, and economic contributions of African Americans, which are woven through American society, and we remember, learn from, and build on the past so that together we can build a better and more prosperous future for all Americans. Therefore, we, Philip Kramer, Mayor, Kimberly Francois, Councilwoman at Large, Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, New Jersey, on behalf of the Franklin Township Council, do hereby proclaim the month of February to be Black History Month in the Township of Franklin and urge all citizens to join in celebrating the diversity and character of our community and highlight the importance of sharing our cultural customs and traditions with those around us. February 14th, 2023. Now, just one word. African American Black History Month is a year-round celebration because I don't stop in the month of February. I stop 24/7, 365 days a year. And because of that, I enrich myself, my 3 children, the wife, mama, papa, cousin, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, everyone, because you have to give back in order to give up. And we all want to move up. And you do the same thing. You, every single day, want your children, your offspring, your brothers and sisters to do what? Be better than you. And that's what I strive to do. And I think I have, just like everyone in this room has. And remember one thing. When it's time to boogie out of here, make sure you leave everything to your kids. Or if you don't want to, leave it all to me because I want it all. Okay? So with that, I'm going to leave. And Deborah Mitchell over here, she's doing a whole lot of reading, so I guess something's coming up for her. And I'll give this back to the mayor. Deputy Mayor. Oh, okay. You know, see, I'm forgetting him already. Now, this is my man over here, okay? He does a good job as deputy mayor, and we love him. Huh? Oh, the mayor's back? All right, well, we'll slide it on over to the mayor. Oh, who gave us the book?
Robin Sedan.
I'm sorry?
Robin Sedan.
Very good book. I want to read it and see what the ending chapter says, but it looks like a good book, so pick it up and read it. Now, who's next?
Time for you to sit down.
You know, moment of fame, and he wants me to sit down. Oh, man.
So the next item on the agenda, besides Mr. Wright, is time for the public to speak. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
I move we open to public.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We are open to the public. We'll do 5 minutes apiece. May only speak once, no yielding of time. May only come up once. And please state your name and address when you come up. Also, when your 5 minutes are up, I'd ask that you sit down, even if someone's answering your questions, to make room for the next person. And whoever wants to speak. Yes, sir.
Dave Robinson, 349 Biltmore Lane, Somerset Run. I believe I represent the feelings of the adult community residents that further expansion of the warehouses in the Elizabeth, Mettlers, Schoolhouse, and Davidson areas will harm our quality of life and negatively impact the future value of our most significant asset, our homes. Somerset Run, Canal Walk, Renaissance, and Sterling Point have about 2,400 homes and pay $22 million a year in property taxes. The 2022 Franklin Township budget funded through property taxes is about $188 million for municipal, library, and Board of Ed. Our four communities, with only 5% of the population, pay about 12% of the total tax burden. This is not insignificant. We require minimal township resources. We have no one in the school system. We pay for our own garbage and snow removal. We have little interaction with police and fire forces. We are, in effect, the township's ATM. What do we need in return other than library books or senior center yoga classes? We need our quality of life to be maintained and our property values to increase over time. The further proliferation of these multi-bay concrete monoliths put both of these needs at risk. On top of the many existing warehouses in this tight area, we have seen new ones pop up on Belmont with 45 bays, behind the Mavis Car Center with 60 bays, behind the ShopRite with who knows how many bays. We now hear another one is proposed for the Holiday Inn property on Davidson. This is in addition to the existing huge Amazon distribution center on Randolph. Now developers want to put more on Mettler's Lane next to Canal Walk and on the Northern Nurseries property on Elizabeth next to Somerset Run and Renaissance. We say enough is enough. You don't need an extensive impact study to know what all these additional trucks will do to the area. Massive traffic congestion, more accidents, more air and noise pollution, and a huge overall deterioration in our everyday life while putting at risk our home's values. Seniors will not be the only ones harmed by this expansion. Summerfield's across from Canal Walk with children going to Elizabeth Avenue and Franklin High Schools, they will be impacted. School busing and drop-offs will be hindered. We will see increased car traffic from more workers coming into Franklin from outside. Customer access to local businesses will be more difficult. For all of the above, we implore the Town Council to again vote yes on the ordinance changes to put an end to this greedy, harmful, unnecessary warehouse expansion. We seniors will be vigilant at this issue as it moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, and what you just did was entirely appropriate. I'm not saying agreeing or disagreeing with what you said, but during this public session, you can speak about anything with regard to government. That certainly was with regard to government. I'm just letting you know there's another public session that will be before we vote on the ordinance that you were just talking about. I'd prefer you save it to then to talk about that, but it is your right to talk about it during this session. Anyone else? It's tonight. It's later in the meeting. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Johnny is Tibbs, 25 Parkside. I'm a part of Black History Month. I'm proud to be what I am. I want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day, and I love Franklin Township. You guys from Canal Walk, Abe Kleinberg will tell you who I am. I think he's deceased now. I think he is. He's my partner. He was my partner. Before I get to I will say this. To all right, man of color, Majaka, and I wanted Crystal to be here and Kimberly to be here. I'm talking to black folks right now. I am appalled that you let this township, the leaders of this township, put us in the situation with all the racist policies they have been spewed around the township. The young people in this community don't have nowhere to live. If you graduate from high school, if you graduate from college, they can't even come home to live. You don't have no affordable living apartments. We want some economic survivable apartments. Affordable is not affordable, and you know that. In terms of jobs for our young men, there's nowhere for a young man to get a job in this township after he graduates from high school. If he needs any type of survival tactics, you have your welfare departments. They've been begging for more money to take care of some of the citizens in the community. You've toiled that money from that. In terms of Canal Walk, there's a big system. You put your own people down there in Canal Walk to vote for no more industry apartments. I want Canal Walk, believe me, by passing that ordinance, you're hurting us black folks in Franklin Township. We need those ratables. We need as many, every other town in this community, in this state, would want all the industry they can in their communities that will lower your taxes, that will lower also your school taxes. If you don't do that, you're hurting us. The poor black, white, and black kids is trying to make it survival in this township. I'm here to tell you that you're hurting us. Because what he'll do is, take the money from the welfare departments and other economic survival departments from the lower economic income people to pay for what you guys want. I just want you to know that. I'm from Franklin Township too. I'm older than all y'all in here. I've been here a long time. And they are killing us. The policies that's coming out of this township is killing us. We were here and made the fifth black township to live in. We made that happen. And I was a part of it. Remember that. Let me see what else. Oh, if you understand what gentrification is, that's what we're doing now. That's what he's doing to this town, to us now in 4th, 5th Ward. You know what gentrification means? You know what that means?
Mr. Tibbs, address the council. Mr. Tibbs, address the council, not the audience.
When we look at you, I'll look at you.
That's fine.
Okay. Gentrification, you're killing us. Now you don't even have Franklin Township. The man over there used to be the head of Franklin Township Housing Authority. You have private meetings with developers. That's supposed to be against, Mr. Lawyer, ain't that against the Sunshine Law?
No.
When the private development, the mayor has to counsel with private developers?
Well, the mayor
They be making deals. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, they be making deals though. That's why they run the township. They don't run the township, the developers run this township. That man over there, Carl Wright, he don't even have Franklin Township no more. Franklin Township Housing Authority. He gave it to New Brunswick. And RPM. We all stuck underneath for those type of policies. By the way, let me say this to you clearly. I'm a friend of the LGBTQ community. I don't like what the head of them is doing to us and conning them into doing things against us. I'm speaking for the community. We need your help, community. We need your help into helping us making everybody that has apartments so we can live in them. Make them not survival apartments. Yeah, I know he want to hear that bad so he can stop me from talking. I'm going to stop without you saying anything. And the black folks, you black guys up there, Kimberly, I want you to reject everything that comes across that council.
Mr. Tibbs,
that's racially, yeah, I know about all that. That's
Mr.
racially
Tibbs,
against us. Yeah, I got you.
Up. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I, before he walks out,
We like to hold our comments to the end. Mr. Tibbs does like to leave, but maybe he'll stay to hear. Okay, so it's up to you, Mr. Wright, but we.
no, see, the problem with TV, some people will watch it and then turn it off.
Okay, go ahead.
And they never get to hear what exactly he said and why there's an issue with that.
You have the floor.
Franklin Township did not advocate the Franklin Township Housing Authority. What it did was, it saved money because it hired the housing director from New Brunswick. And it saved money because he didn't need anything from us. It was straight money. And the money doesn't come from the Township Council, it comes from the rental of that property.
Mr. Tibbs. Mr. Tibbs. Mr. Tibbs.
Number two.
Mr. Tibbs, you do not have the floor.
Number two. When the building had holes
Mr.
in
Tibbs,
the
you're being
roof,
disruptive. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Wright.
when the building had holes in the roof and no one wanted to come on board and actually do the work to fix the building and to replace the building because you couldn't fix the building anymore. So, patching didn't work. So what they did is they went out and asked for a bid for somebody to come in and build it. Nobody would. Enter RPM. Now, if any of you have driven around any urban area, and sometimes down in Princeton and Trenton, RPM is a developer of property. And what it does is that it will replace, and in this case the housing authority, it doesn't keep it forever. It keeps it as long as the federal government says you can have it and what they stipulated it for, because they're going to make their money back for building it. And yes, profit. So, if you go to the housing authority, you will see brand new buildings in and around the senior complex, which is the big building in the middle. And yes, I was on the housing authority, which our Councilwoman at Large, Ms. Francois, sat on last year. Okay, so there's nobody advocating a damn thing in Franklin Township. It's looking at where the dollars are and how best to use them. So, housing authority, yes, RPM built it. Make no mistake about it. They're going to make money from it. Yes, they will. Did we advocate our authority? No, we didn't. This council appoints people to the housing authority. I want everyone to understand that. So everybody in TV land, I want you to understand and I want you to hear me. Everyone in this room heard me, but I want to make sure everybody else hears what goes on. Too many times people will speak here and walk out the room and people turn off the TV set and they never understand the whole story. That's why I wanted to interrupt, and I thank the mayor for allowing me to speak to make sure that you understood exactly what went on. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Benjamin Guy, 35 Patton Drive. Just for planning purposes, and I don't know what came out of the last two meetings that we had. One was the assessment meeting, which was open, and the I know we had open forums for the planning board so that the public understands. So the question is now that we've done those publicly, what's the next step on what we're going to be doing for the public? Because I don't see any reports, I don't see any minutes, I didn't see anything else from that whole discussion that was happening. I know there were public forums, but I don't know what the next steps are. I know there were educational places, but what's the next step on what we're doing with that? So that's one thing. The second portion is that, to Mr. Tibbs' point about the housing portion, it's great that we did that. The question is now, we're in a different situation. What are we doing next? Because now this impacts the next set of the master plan and everything else that we're doing, because we're, like I pointed this out to Mr. Vonlocker before, is that we're in a growth period because we're on the border. We have to look at what we're doing as far as what's impacting New Brunswick, what comes over here, as far as development that's going on in New Brunswick, and what washes over as far as the border cities that we actually do. Even with Boundbrook, we have to watch what's going on in Boundbrook at all because of the growth and the developments that are happening there. That all affects Franklin. So what are we doing? So we do this, we do the master plan, we have these discussions, but the public interest also needs to be expressed during these periods of time frame. Now, we've signed this contract multiple times with the housing authority. The question is when do we take it back? Because it's been there for, what, 15, 20 years now? And you can comment afterwards, but it's been there 15, 20 years, right? So they manage, and this is a historic thing, they manage 5 counties, right? So the appropriation that's actually done for the same people that are in New Brunswick, they manage 5 counties. They manage Princeton, Atlantic City, New Brunswick, and they manage Franklin. So how are we getting the resources for our people? That's what Mr. Tibbs is a little bit upset about. How are we getting the assessment for our people to be managed the right way when that person manages 5 different counties? You're not getting the appropriations that you need to do. I know we're saving money, but that doesn't make any sense. Our people, our citizens are suffering because they're not being looked at the right way. So when do we look at and assess what the citizens need rather than trying to fight what the citizens are saying at that specific time frame? That's what this whole conversation is about. The anger that you see, the vitriol that you have pointed at you is all about not assessing what the citizens want to do. All this stuff that happens with what's going on with the warehouses and all everything else that's going on is all about the vitriol that people are feeling the frustration about because it feels like the council's not listening. And I'm just making this a point of reference. Another point that I want to bring up, and I wanted Mr. Wright to actually quote this in public now. From yesterday, we had a meeting where there's a community organization that was actually trying to rebuild what they're doing, right? Instead of actually assisting and pointing this stuff out and trying to work on a solution, certain council people, mainly Mr. Wright, has stated that he wants to minimize the resources that actually go involved with that organization. And I want you to publicly state that on record here exactly what you stated at the council at the other meeting at this specific time frame, because we need to start being transparent with holding people accountable. And again, I wanted to make sure that on a public forum, you state the same thing that you stated for that organization publicly so that people can actually have records about that. So that is my time at this specific time frame. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Seeing no one come forward, Mayor, a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
And I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public portion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Public portion is closed.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, once again, interrupt the meeting.
Well, we'll start with you then.
Once again, RPM, Redevelopment Agency. If any of you have driven down Route 27 or gone up Franklin Boulevard to the junction of 27 and Franklin Boulevard, you will see new buildings. RPM. Now, Carl Wright didn't start RPM, and I didn't start the Redevelopment Agency. In the year 2001, in the year 2001, I believe, the Redevelopment Agency was started out of a church called First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens. And they had meetings all through the 2000s. We even have the top redevelopment lawyer in town as part of the Redevelopment Agency. Well, no one wanted to come through, and we actually hit a recession. And no one wanted to build in that redevelopment agency. How do I know? My house was in the redevelopment agency area. Understand what I just said? My house. My house. So, as a consequence, what we did was this. I couldn't stop the redevelopment agency, but I could damn sure run for this seat that I'm sitting in right now. And before I got here, what I did was I picketed every place I could go, and I removed my house out of the redevelopment area, just like some of you want to remove warehouses. I picketed. I didn't have to come to the council because the redevelopment agency is an autonomous organization, Mr. Von Locker?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. So we sat in that little conference room over there, and I picketed and I made my noise forever. And guess what? My house and the houses behind me were removed from the redevelopment area. That was step number one. Step number two was sitting in this seat right here. Why? Because I could affect that change. Okay? Now, no one else wanted to come to town once again to do any building. RPM stepped up to the plate.
I said, you know what? I'll come to town and build it. Now, what did it do? It looked at voucher housing. Some of you might know it as Section 8. Some of you might know it as county or state or whatever, housing vouchers. Well, they built the building on Berry Street. And they said, come one, come all, we'll take your vouchers. And that's exactly what they did. I believe they came to the township and got a payment in lieu of tax, payment in lieu of taxes. Because what they did was, for all the rooms that we gave them money for, they took less money from the renters in order for them to live there. Okay? So that's what they did, and they did a very good job, built a nice building, and put apartments, a playground behind the building. That's what they did. Now, to Mr. Guy's point, why did everybody else know about that instead of the people of Franklin Township? I'm clueless. Website, maybe? It was definitely in the newspaper. Word of mouth? I don't know. Just looking for housing. They didn't come across it. Well, guess what? They started building all around the neighborhood. All around my house. Now, nobody knew they were building? There are people from Newark, New Jersey in those apartments. There are people from Windsor in those apartments. How did they get there? Who told them? I damn sure didn't tell them. Did you tell them? Did we tell them? How did they get there? Okay, let's move on. There's another housing project. They built townhouses for sale. Roughly $160,000, $170,000, corner usage, the whole nine, and they're behind Burger King. And they border Neiman Williams Park. Okay? Probably never seen them because you really can't see them unless you walk up in there, but they're there. And people bought them. They lived there. How did they find out about it? Tea leaves? I don't think so. No. They did their research. They saw the big billboard by the train tracks, and it said, houses for sale, townhouses. And they told you how much they start at. No one saw it, I guess. No one from Franklin Township saw it for sure. Now, you mentioned a function that we're going to have, right, Mr. Guy? And that's going to be held, no, first it was a name. What could we name it? And we named it as our very photographer over there. He was there at that meeting. And the name we came up with, we were still looking for. I said, end of school year. Everybody else has their idea because there's two people on that committee besides me. And we're going to try to do it in conjunction with Franklin Township Recreation Department. Why? The businesses pay a SID tax on Hamilton Street. That SID tax goes toward whatever Hamilton Street needs, from lighting to streetscape, you name it, that's what that SID tax is for. You don't pay for that tax. Only the businesses on Hamilton Street, because it's a special assessment. That's who pays for everything on Hamilton Street that makes it safe, that makes it attractive. Why is it there? It's to bring you down to Hamilton Street to spend your hard-earned dollars. I want greenbacks, and that's exactly what Hamilton Street is built for. Okay? Now, that end of school year party, we'll call it that, they have the function put on by Franklin Township Recreation Department. And I said, if we do it then, that means that the businesses don't have to spend a whole lot of money. Why? Franklin Township doing it anyway. Let's throw in a couple of dollars and join them. Cut the rate. And that's exactly what I hope we do. Cut the rate. Now, we want to block off the streets and, vendors, the whole nut on Lewis. We can't do it on Hamilton Street because Hamilton's a county road. Am I right, Mr. Manager? Or is it a state?
County, correct.
It's county road, and blocking that off is serious business, and I don't think we're going to be able to do it because there's no bypass. There's no way around that big stretch that you can cut through in order to give us that street. Otherwise, we're going to do on Levin's property, and because they have that big parking lot in front of John's Plaza and a tropical restaurant that sits there. So they do that for Halloween, but we hope this will be a little bit bigger. And we're inviting all the kids down. I don't care where you live. You can live over there at Canal Walk. Well, that's senior citizens. But anywhere around there, they can come on down and hang out with us. Food and everything else. So I don't understand what that issue was. It was like anything else. Save money wherever you can. And that's exactly what I did. As a councilman, I tried to save the businesses on Hamilton Street money because we were already doing it as Franklin Township. So yes, we participate. Yes, we're going to throw in some dollars. Yes, we're going to invite everybody down there. And that's what we're doing over there on Lewis Street. I forget if there was something else. I probably, blew right past it because I was frustrated because these things came up, and in my opinion, it didn't make sense because they knew he and everybody else knew the answers that came to the meeting. They knew the answers because we discussed it. I stood up and gave the answers. So, label me a criminal, label me a crook, I don't know. But I did it. I admit it. And if anybody here or anybody else wants to talk to me, you have my email address. Send me a little memo, nasty or otherwise, and I'll answer it. Okay? That is about it. Oh, one more thing. And I'm kind of mad because people haven't done this. Is I've been trying to do a survey. And the township, we made up these little survey cards. Okay? And I had 500 of these. And I went randomly and just dropped them in all the mailboxes in my ward. Randomly. I have 200 left. And I got to close off this survey. So what I'm going to do is this weekend, my kids and I, we're going to run up and down the street randomly and drop these in the 4th Ward. And I hope when you see it, you will actually take the time and fill it out. And if you don't get one, you can always go to the website because there's a little button there for the survey. And if you get one and you want to pass it to a friend who lives in Franklin Township, there's a little cue card there. So if you take a picture up, the survey opens up so you can do it from your cell phone. Okay? So we're going to have to close that up soon, and I think I talked enough. Thank you, and again, any more questions, just let me know.
All in favor of Mr. Wright having talked enough, say aye.
Oh, come on!
How many have you gotten back on your survey? How many have you gotten back?
50 if that or
He said
something?
about 10% of his
10%.
cards.
10%, yeah, 10%, all right. He's going to be nice, 10%.
Typically, those surveys do bring back about 30%, so you're...
I'd actually like to have 100%, but that's not going to happen.
Never happens.
Out of 500, I give these 200 out. Come on, give them back.
Mr. Vasanella.
Thank you, Mayor. So, 2 specific items. First of all, we had a Public Works meeting tonight. Councilman Potasnik, Deputy Mayor, and myself were there. Long story short, we're getting ready to make a major recommendation to the rest of the council. Last year was a record-breaking year for road work. Mainly that means paving, but we also do curbing and some sidewalk stuff. We are looking now to be in kind of right where we want to be as far as truly being caught up based on engineering standards. And to do that, we will be recommending close to $5 million to our council, but we are awaiting information from our financial oversight. Financial oversight meets quite often now, go through the budget, because we're on a calendar year budget, which is being worked up. It's the manager's budget, it will come to council. But the point is that we look at our fund balance. We want to borrow or bond as little as possible, preferably nothing. So we're looking at somewhere between a $4 and $5 million road resurfacing program, which will actually top 2022's, which was a record-breaking year. It's not like we want to spend the money, don't get me wrong, we're not bragging about spending more than we need to. I guess we're happy and enthusiastic that we're coming near to where we will be
truly caught up by all engineering standards. And if we have the fund balance to do it, these are numbers that are being worked at. We will come back with a final recommendation. But tonight, we did a lot of preliminary work. We all agree in concept to the streets and the priority and the order of which they should be done. Got an update on other water projects going on. That's separate under our water department. And probably in about a month from now, we'll have a final recommendation and final update posted on our website concerning roads left over from last year, going out to bid this spring. I know it sounds crazy, but another, 6 weeks we're in spring, 5 weeks. But anyway, very productive meeting and truly breaking ground, figuratively and literally, in this township infrastructure, road-wise. The other subject is to piggyback what I brought up earlier, our proclamation acknowledging Franklin's 225th anniversary. So without going into detail, because quite frankly, I'll just have the basics, but for a few years, I and a few other people in conversations have been pondering and hoping that Franklin Township, separate from what our county and anywhere else does, could come up with some kind of space that's dedicated simply to the history of our township. So it's in its infancy, really, conceptually, but there's an old schoolhouse you see on the property over here that somehow has survived. It's from the mid to late 1800s. The manager might be able to give some details when he does his report. But basically, it's been sitting there idle, and over the years, a lot of people have come up with ideas for what to do, including someone to get rid of it and destroy it. But fortunately, it's there. It's got a lot of history I won't go into now. But the bottom line is, I'm not talking about spending millions. I'm talking about spending what hopefully would be a few $100,000 to make that building usable, because obviously you have to have utilities and ADA compliant and basic amenities. But the idea would be, simply put, and there's no specific, it's all in conceptual stage, but the idea would be to take the walls of that really beautiful historic little site out there that goes mainly unnoticed and use the walls in there to have photographs, drawings, maps that basically in a linear fashion show the chronological history of our township. And it would be a place that class from a school can come and spend an hour and learn a lot. It could be a meeting room, which we always seem to need meeting rooms for the many organizations we have in town, but basically would be dedicated in a simple way. And if there was the enthusiasm and money down the road, we have a lot of history, 225 plus years worth. It could always be expanded upon, an annex be built, but in the immediate, hopefully, I'm going to say near future, we could find a way to use that building and for people to understand, appreciate a permanent historical, I don't want to say archive, but monument to the great history that we do have in this township. So I'm going to be meeting with the manager in the next week or so to get some rough numbers so that, and a little more of a conceptual plan so the rest of the council, of course, can be involved and chime in and tweak it and rework it and hopefully not put it on the shelf to collect dust, but hopefully we really will. I'm not saying it's the most important thing going on, but I think it's important. If there was ever a time to do it, we're turning next week 225 years old, and the country's turned 250 years old, and I think everybody in this town, especially our youth, would benefit by having, even if it's small, a comfortable, quiet, enjoyable place to learn about the history of our township. So sorry to go on so long, but hopefully I'll have some more comment about that in coming month. That is it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Vasanella. I think it's a terrific idea. Councilman Onichaka.
First of all, I will like to wish Franklin happy birthday for 255 years. And above all, as an immigrant, when I came to Franklin in '82. An opportunity was given to me and other immigrants here. Excel, work hard, live in a community where there's no diversity, community where everybody feels that we are one. I personally enjoy the privilege. And others from my own area, and other parts of West Africa and Africa and other areas, they also enjoy the privilege, and will continue to enjoy the privilege. So we feel very, very happy on my behalf and as the chairman of the West African community. If we're here, we adopt ourselves here, and we remain law-abiding. We are happy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Potasnik.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to wish everyone a very happy Valentine's Day to you and your loved ones, and also remember folks that might not be celebrating because they feel like they don't have a significant other or they're not loved. I can guarantee you are loved, and if someone's not taking a moment to tell you, that's on us. So we should all take some time to share that with those of us, those people around us who we care deeply about. And, you know, if they were taken from us in an instant, we would regret. So it doesn't just have to be a Hallmark holiday and a time for the CVSs of the world to make lots of money. It can also just be a moment to share that appreciation. And I think it goes a long way. We had a little thing at the office today, and it was really special, and not in a way of like, you know, love, like get married kind of thing, just, you know, the nice interactions you have that you cherish. In addition, the council member Vassanella mentioned paving. I just want to clarify a little bit on that. This township had been spending around $2.5 million on paving and made a big bump in investments over the last year to $3.5 million. The Public Works Committee, when it met, is looking at even potentially or recommending, there's financial considerations to the finance folks to go even further. We were left with a long backlog for years of underpaving that we're trying to catch up with. And I don't think, even with the $5 million, if that were to be found, that funding, that we would get to a place where we'd be finally caught up. So if your road is not great, like many roads we're behind on, we recognize that. We have to be careful with how much we invest because your taxes and the money you pay is on the line too, and finding a balance there. We recognize that. We still probably will be a little bit, not caught up. But I will say, and a tremendous credit to this council for doing such a great job to get us closer and closer to that finish line. Of course, as you catch up, and I don't think we'll be there, other roads become more in disrepair. That's the terrible thing about time. It has a way of leaving us one step backwards each bit. But I do think we're taking larger steps forward, and if we were to get to that $5 million mark this year, it would be double what we were doing just 3 years ago. That would be tremendous, and I would be very, very, very proud of that. So I just wanted to not raise your expectations too high. But we would love to have every road be caught up. Don't get us wrong on that. And then also on Black History Month, Councilman Wright mentioned, you know, every month is Black History Month. It is still important to take a moment to think about in the context of what we're seeing. There are efforts to try to subvert or hide or turn off the teaching of the contributions of Black people in our American history. So Black history is American history, but it has not been taught that way. Textbooks have been written in leaving out significant contributions. And I think the poet, Councilman's not here now, who came and shared the story that many of us learned for the first time in a movie, that tells you how deficient our education system is in providing those aspects of Black history. Although everyone would know, you know, Einstein, it's problematic. So there are efforts in Florida. The governor there pushed back hard against AP curriculum for AP African American history and got whole sections removed because people are going to be too mad to learn about it. We still have work to do, and I think to me, as a white person, that's what Black History Month is about what can I do in whatever places I'm in to help advance that, so we can teach accurately and understand accurately some of the structural components and barriers that still exist, and we just need to make sure we remove them. But we have to recognize them and admit that they're there. And celebrating the contributions is really just the beginning of the work that we have to do together. So I want to thank the council for recognizing that and just reflect a little bit on it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe the last few weeks our country has gone through some tough tragedies, if you want to call it, or violence, gun violence, and police misusing power on helpless citizens. So you look at those things happening elsewhere in the country, and you kind of look around Franklin Township. We have good leadership here in our public safety department. Public Safety Director Mayweather put out a very nice statement, and I don't know whether you got to read it. Our police department treats all our people equally and with respect and with dignity, and that's because of the training and the leadership our police department has in this town. Not only that, I think that just when the Floyd scenario happened in Minneapolis, right before that, I think we started something called Community Relations Bureau. That has become a notable thing in the country. The programs and the relationships that our staff, our police officers build in the community is really commendable. We are becoming a sample organization for other towns. Other police departments are coming to our town to learn how and what we are doing to build those bonds with the local communities. In fact, I think the Cooking with the Cops is a program that our officers do with the kids at the building there. We have a little kitchen in the second floor, and that got picked up by the FBI's newsletter last month. And congratulations to our Community Relations Bureau, the offices, and the leadership. We are very proud of them. We are all one people. Our officers are trained to deal with all people equally, with respect and with dignity, and we are very proud of that. And of course, the gun violence is another story. We can't stop that, but we have to be vigilant. We got to be aware of our surroundings. Hopefully we can avoid such events as best as we can. Beyond that, some good things. On the 3rd of February at the Youth Center, Amazon folks were there. They gave us a $10,000 contribution to support the Youth Center activities. Our youth there require a lot of support, supplies, stories, movies, ice cream, popcorns, whatever. So more than that, I think they're going to be back returning one Wednesday a month. The Amazon staff would be going there to volunteer and mentor the kids. That is worth more than the $10,000 that they would give. So they are trying to be a good citizen in the town by supporting our community, and our thanks to Amazon and the staff there. I think last week we had a tax assessor, our tax assessor had a good town hall meeting right here. I think we had a great turnout. We had a great turnout. I think we all understood how our homes are assessed, how the taxes are levied on our properties, whether it's commercial or residential. Right now, the residential portion outweighs the commercial piece. But with the new warehouses that are in the map that are coming up, I think we are going to have a little more distribution towards the industries. As you heard, Johnny, the ratables do help balance some of the tax burden in general. And then there was a talk by the state authorities about the anchor program, where you have certain limitations with we are under the limits of a certain income. You got your money tax rebate back, the property tax rebate back from the town, including from the state, including renters. So that's another good program. So if you qualify and you have not applied, please do that. And that goes back to 2019. So I expect very soon, 2020, 2021, 2022 years, rebates would be coming up soon. So watch out for that from the governor, provided they have enough money there. Other than that, there was a Sewerage Authority Board meeting. It was a reorganization meeting that took place. There was a new chair appointed. Teresa Ford is the new chair woman for the Sewerage Authority Board. Last Saturday, I also went to a breakfast organized by an organization called ICNA Relief. They're right on Hamilton Boulevard, Hamilton Street. They are an organization that helps primarily refugees, poor people, children that are in need of supplies, food, so on and so forth. And I put them in touch with our Community Relations Bureau, and so they are working together. It's a national organization. They're right here in Hamilton Street. Good organization getting involved and helping our people in need. Last but not the least, HRC, the Human Relations Commission, is going to have their meeting on the 22nd. Our own newspaper editors, like Bill Bowman, is going to be our guest there to speak about their goals and missions for the township. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. One thing he left out is he performed his first wedding, the deputy mayor. And he has agreed, as have I, that the money that goes to the mayor or the person performing the wedding will be donated to the animals. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mayor.
For what I have to say, those of you watching at home hopefully have already recognized that we've upgraded our sound system. So the crackling that you heard hopefully is gone. Please let me know if it isn't, and we'll keep working on that. If you're watching videos of meetings that occurred in the large conference room, they've had some trouble for quite some time. We're upgrading that system as well. And anyone who has any coffee on them right now, feel free to spill it on the carpet, because this is finally going to be replaced in, what, 2 weeks, a week?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So have at it now, but in 2 weeks, no more. Happy Valentine's Day. I enjoyed what you said, Councilmember Potasnik, about Valentine's Day, and there's someone if I get home in time, I will call, because probably are thinking that they're alone, and I want them to know they're not. Very good idea. Councilman, Assemblyman Danielson and I continue to work at the state level about warehouses. It's not just a problem here, it's a problem all over, and we have some ideas, and he's going to try to be putting them forward. We'll have to see what comes of that. I believe that's all I have. Mr. Tibbs has left, so unfortunately he won't be able to hear this, but he talked about affordable housing. The last round of affordable housing, the judge said that Franklin was the model for affordable housing, that we had done it right, we had exceeded our minimums, And I'm very proud of what this town has done as affordable housing, and we continue to create for affordable housing. He also has a basic misunderstanding of how the budget works. If we get more ratables in town, more industry in town, I'm speaking generically, not about any particular type, that does not give us more money in our budget. We set our budget to what we need. When we get those increase in industries other than residential, it makes the people who are paying residential taxes it allows them to pay less, but it doesn't give us more money. We don't increase assessments to get more money. We assess houses as fairly as we can so that people are paying their, I'll call it fair share. I don't think property taxes is a smart way to tax, but that's what we're given. So assessments are to make sure everybody's paying their amount according to that. Mr. Guy has left, but he's asking what the next steps were from the town meeting. The town meetings were informative. They were not meeting to try to figure out what to do next. It was to inform the public as to how the various things work. That's all I have, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a few things to report on, and I think that maybe I'm just going to take one of the things you just talked about one step further. For those of you who don't understand affordable housing and the obligations of a municipality for affordable housing, some of the terms might be familiar to you. Mount Laurel housing, if that's familiar to you, that stems from a 1970s case in Burlington County where the NAACP sued the Township of Mount Laurel because their zoning prohibited low and moderate income housing. And as a result of that, there have been a number of rounds of mandated affordable housing that municipalities have had to meet. And like the mayor said, Franklin Township has met and exceeded its obligations under what was formerly COA, and it was the Council on Affordable Housing. That's now defunct, and this New Jersey Supreme Court stepped in place of COA and determined whether or not in the third round and previous rounds, whether or not municipalities had met their obligation. As part of meeting our obligation, it is not only that area that was deemed in need of redevelopment that's under the authority of the redevelopment agency, that area that that Councilman Wright talked about along Route 27 and Franklin Boulevard and Berry Street, and those neighborhoods where Leawood and Somerset Gate and RPM have been the redevelopers approved by the redevelopment agency. But throughout the township, when there is new residential development, to include places like Summerfields on Schoolhouse Road, there is a portion of those housing units that are obligated to be for, in some cases, very low or moderate income housing. And those incomes are determined not by the Township of Franklin, but by standards set by the state of New Jersey. We also contract annually with an organization based in Raritan, but they serve Somerset County, to administer our affordable housing rental units. And so this is the efforts that the township has made in reference to affordable housing. And as the mayor said, it was acknowledged by the Superior Court that we had met and exceeded our obligations and would be the model that could be held up throughout the state of New Jersey as to how a town should work towards meeting their affordable housing obligations. So those of you who live here should be proud of that fact, that we are working as hard as we can to meet the needs of all of our residents, whether they can afford to buy a home or whether they can afford rent. That's what affordable and low income and moderate income housing is for. So I might sound like I'm preaching, but maybe I am a little bit, but I think that the township should be proud of the efforts that have been made in that particular area of housing. And then further in council, Councilman Myerson's comments about the Anchor program. The Anchor program is New Jersey property tax relief. It is coming to a close. The deadline for application is February 28th. I have asked the IT department late this afternoon to put that information again out on all of our social media platforms and put it on our township website. So if you want information about it, it should be on the website tomorrow morning. For those homeowners who have income up to $150,000 and who were in their home on October 1st of 2019, you are entitled to a $1,500 return. For those between $150,000 and $250,000, you're entitled to a $1,000 return, and renters who earned up to $150,000 are entitled to $450. Again, you had to be in the unit on October 1st of 2019, and as I said, there's information will be on our website, and the deadline is February 28th. Couple just kind of points of interest. The township is conducting a community health assessment, and so I'll just read what the Special Projects Director told me to read when she said, "Could you please read these two announcements, Mr. Manager?" For the well of it, community health assessment. The information gathering period of the community health assessment is drawing to a close. Residents wishing to take advantage of this last chance to add their input regarding health, wellness, and nutrition resources available to them in the township can do so by logging on to franklintwpnj.org/healthyfranklin. The link is on our township website for that survey. And also, Film Ready Community. The New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission, in partnership with the Somerset County Film Commission, announces that Franklin, Hillsborough, South Bound Brook, and Watchung have completed the multi-step training and certification process and have been designated as Film Ready Communities, ready and prepared to cooperate with movie and television producers. This program, spearheaded by the Department of State, will be statewide in the spring. Those four towns, to include Franklin, were the first four in the state of New Jersey to be declared film ready and met all of the requirements. It was a bit of work on the part of our special projects manager to put together all of the information, so I thank Safi Callan for that work. It's kind of a feather in our cap. What it basically means is that when film producers want to film in New Jersey and they go to the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission, they're supplied with our information and our packet as a film-ready community so that they can give various different buildings, locations that they might want to film their movie here. So there you have it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. For council discussion items, there is none. Approval of the minutes, there are none. We are now on to paying the warrants. Bills we pay in the amount of $19,347,463.52 on February 14th are presented to Township Council for payment. Do we have a motion on the warrants?
So moved.
Again.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone like to pull an item or question an item? Madam Clerk.
Deputy Mayor Barrison.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Petosnik.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Next item is SFY 2023 Community Development Block Grant set schedule and public hearing. Isn't the public hearing today?
Yes.
So it's time for a public hearing, and if Ms. Mitchell can come up and explain the 2023 schedule, and then we will hold a public hearing.
Okay, tonight I'm here to present to council the schedule for the Community Development Block Grant Program for 2023. Currently, applications are available for the 2023 application period. Applications are due on March the 8th. We will have on March 28th another public hearing, at which time applicants can present their applications for council review. And then a final action plan will be prepared, and council will have another public hearing to approve the action plan on June 28th, 2023. This is all predicated on the hopeful fact that we will have our money on time so that we'll know what our award is by the end of February of this year. And that way we'll be able to maintain our schedule and submit a timely application. Just a little bit of background about the program. The Township of Franklin is an entitlement community which receives funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development through its Community Planning and Development Program. We receive those funds because the township exceeds the population threshold of 50,000 people. The grants are determined by formula. Any one of the two following factors would qualify or qualifies Franklin for funding: overcrowded housing, population in poverty or age of housing, population growth lag, and poverty. Last year, the township received $312,761. This assistance is directed to help the township meet the needs of its low and moderate income residents. We published notice of this public hearing that we're going to do tonight because the program is required under its citizen participation program to conduct at least 3 public hearings during the course of the year on the program. And it is during that time that the public has the opportunity to comment on the program, and we can make note of the concerns or issues that may occur within the program. That is all that I have for tonight. And the application is going to be on the township webpage for those organizations that are interested in submitting. All organizations must be 501c3 eligible in order to get funds from this program.
And when is the application due date?
The application due date is March 8th, 2023.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, it is now appropriate to have a public session on the CDBG grant. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We're open to the public on this item only.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one come forward, I make a motion that we close public session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public session on this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Public session is closed. And we are now on to, okay, no giggling. We are now on to ordinance 439122, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin County, Somerset, State of New Jersey, particularly Chapter 112 Land Development, to eliminate warehouses as a permitted use in the business and industry zone, and to make related ordinance amendments. Public hearing has been noticed as required. I'm about to ask for opening to public, but Mr. Attorney, would you like to explain why we're actually doing a third reading as opposed to two?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The clerk's office reviewed the notice that was published in the newspaper, and I just want to be clear that this public hearing required us to mail out how many notices?
1,116.
So we mailed out 1,116 notices for the earlier public hearing, but the notice that was published in the newspaper, whether or not it was read by anybody, was they left out the address of the municipal. So the clerk's office has put this back on the agenda so that we can conduct the public hearing again and re-vote on the ordinance, because obviously the notice was, we deemed it to be defective, and rather than trying to parse whether it was or was not, because it said it was in the council chambers, but it didn't indicate where they were located, we elected to have it again. For the purpose of the record on this, everything that was said at the last public hearing, given the fact that notices were sent out to over 1,000 people, will be incorporated as part of the record, but you do have to hold another public hearing tonight, Mayor, and you do have to re-vote.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to also add that those property owners that were to be notified for the first public hearing were again notified in accordance with the state statute for notifications on a zoning ordinance amendment.
So we've noticed them twice. That's correct. I thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Vornlacher.
We also did a press release to our local press, letting them know this was happening, trying to be as transparent as possible.
And the notice did indicate why we were doing it again, Mayor, so that there wasn't any confusion.
And it had the address and all those things.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the key question.
I think so.
Yes, it had the GPS coordinates in it.
So do I have a motion? I want a monocle. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Same rules apply, except it's only about this ordinance that one can speak. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Rob Simon. I'm an attorney with Herald Law in Warren, New Jersey. Happy to be back here. Thanks for having me. I'm here on behalf of, as last time, a number of property owners that are located, including on Executive Drive, Memorial Drive, Belmont Drive, in the township. And again, I will provide a comprehensive list to the clerk of all those who I represent, including where their properties are located. Just in terms of procedure here, we do continue to contend that the procedures adopted for purposes of this public hearing are not in accordance with law. There is no statute that justifies or contemplates a quote-unquote second public hearing. There is no, if you look at the published notice, it again is flawed, as it does not accurately reflect by any means what is being proposed by way of ordinance amendment. And as I stated last time, and I will continue to state, that if you do not comply with the statutory requirements regarding notice, the ordinance is deemed invalid. We also brought up and will continue to contend that the master plan amendment was flawed both procedurally and substantively, upon which this ordinance allegedly is based. There is no evidence that the allegedly more than 24 applications for the development of new or expanded warehouses since 2018 will create significant impacts to the quality of life in Franklin Township. There's no study that was ever performed to assess roadway, employment, traffic, circulation, air, noise, and related impacts that allegedly would be caused by developing the property consistent with the BI zone, while warehousing use has been permitted in the area comprising the BI zone for some time, specifically more than 25 years now, and the amendment fails to take into consideration the character of the BI zone and its particular suitability for particular uses, and to encourage the most appropriate use of land. There's no relationship to the existing number of warehouses in 2018 in terms of the number of square feet, loading docks, truck traffic. There's no evidence as to traffic, noise, air pollution for warehouse uses as compared to other uses that continue to be permitted in the BI zone. Certainly, many of our clients' properties include those that are situated immediately or very close to major roadways, including 287, whereby a truck will not pass a single residence when departing from or heading to our clients' properties. They don't abut a residential use or residential zone property. We believe that these sensitive land issues affecting residential properties that are alleged in the ordinance, they have not changed from the time the master plan first recommended warehouse development in what is now the BI zone, let alone from the time that the warehouse use was amended last year as a conditional use. And I heard, while sitting here and listening to very eloquent speakers and very impassioned pleas by members of the council, I heard a number of words. I heard transparency. I heard accountability. I heard responsibility, and I heard appreciation. Those words apply to all taxpayers, whether they are individual taxpayers, whether they are corporate taxpayers. And what should happen here, or what should have happened here, is that appropriate studies be conducted so to engage subsequently in intelligent planning for the entire BI district and the districts immediately surrounding the BI district, so that what was envisioned by the master plan after comprehensive studies would be effectuated. But instead, we have what we have here, and we believe it is to the detriment of the entire township community. And with that, I have a professional planner that would like to add some comments as well. Thank you.
Mayor, I just note for the record that the published notice in the newspaper published the entire ordinance, and
That was going to be my question.
yeah,
Thank
it
you.
published the entire ordinance. I have it in front of me.
Sorry, sir, your time is up.
Lou,
Sir, your time is up. Maybe your planner can address what you...
I wanted to respond, but
I understand you do, but this isn't a court of law.
Good evening. My name is Peter Steck. I'm a licensed planning consultant, and I guess I've been here before. If you carefully read the notice...
What's your name and address on the record?
Oh, again, Peter Steck, S-T-E-C-K, 80 Maplewood Avenue, Maplewood, New Jersey. If you carefully read the newspaper ad, it suggests a certain language, and it presumably may have been intended to prohibit warehousing, but the word warehousing is not stricken from the ad, as was in the ordinance. So there appears to be at least one defect in that ordinance. Just to give you my observations as a planner, in order for you to engage in zoning, you have to have a valid master plan, and there's certain requirements, minimum requirements, and one of them is a statement of goals and objectives, and one is a land use plan element that takes into account the existing pattern of uses. In addition to encouraging an ordinance to implement a valid master plan, there's a limitation on how you can rezone an area in the municipal land use law. 4055D-62A requires reasonable consideration to the character of each district and its peculiar suitability for particular uses. You can't go into an area that's 80% two-family and zone it a one-family area. You have to look at what the pattern of land uses are. Your latest master plan change is, in my opinion, doesn't comport with the municipal land use standards. The January 18th, 2023 document essentially has a cover and 2 pages. Now, while it expresses policy desires and recommends changes to the ordinance, there is no study, as indicated by Mr. Simon, that justifies those policy statements. And the master plan is more than just a policy statement. There has to be a foundation to it, presumably in the land use plan element. The prior master plans did extensive studying on traffic, on existing land use patterns, and they all supported warehouse and distribution facilities and recognized that the strategic position of the municipality in terms of the transportation network was appropriate for those kinds of uses. There is no document now that shows where the incidence of warehousing is, distribution, and by the way, your ordinance also now prohibits wholesale businesses in the BI zone. It makes no distinction between warehouses and manufacturing uses, and if you look at the latest traffic production, such as the, I guess, 10th edition of the Institute of Traffic Engineers, a typical manufacturing use can produce more traffic over a daily basis than a traditional warehouse use. So if your guidance, if your motivation is to simply slow down, eliminate traffic, you are picking out warehousing without a distinction to the types of warehousing, but you're leaving in manufacturing that can produce more traffic than warehousing does. There's a policy statement is that you want to promote quality, you want to take into consideration quality of life considerations. That's not just traffic. That's a rateable base. Of the 21 municipalities in Somerset County, you have the largest category, assessed category of 4B in the whole county. And that's why you've enjoyed reasonable taxes and you can provide great services to your citizens. That will change when, in my opinion, warehousing is prohibited. Finally, there's a statement that don't worry, existing warehouses can apply for use variances, the Board of Adjustment. The preference is for legislation, not for variances. If you make everything a variance, that's an arbitrary approach to the land use law. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Steve Finkelstein. I live at 46 Johnson Road, so I'm a resident of the town. I'm here tonight as of counsel to the Linus Law Firm at 11 Clyde Road, and we represent Northern Nurseries at 487 Elizabeth Avenue in the Township. I'm here simply to repeat.
Try to speak more into the mic.
Thank you. I'm here to repeat the comments made by Mr. Linus of our office, as well as the planner John Chadwick, who came to offer his comments on the 24th. Mr. Chadwick happens to be the former planner for this town. I would also like to repeat the comprehensive review that Mr. Simon had presented to the board. It is fundamentally accurate in every regard. This change in the warehouse law prohibiting warehouses in the BI zone has, as been pointed out by counsel and several witnesses, it's been done without any sort of research required by the MLUL. No data to back up the findings in the change in the master plan. And lastly, I'd like to briefly state that I was surprised and somewhat pleasantly surprised that this evening several speakers came up and noted the adverse effects that this change may have on members of our town's minority community in terms of affecting the tax base of the town, as well as affecting the ability for the town to generate jobs for members of our minority community. That was something that I had stated previously on the 24th, and it was nice to see that it was picked up. I'm curious as to why the town has not conducted any sort of research in the effects on job creation in this town, but I think it's fairly apparent that it's going to have a serious effect on jobs, particularly for types of workers that warehouses may be needing to conduct their operations in the town. I thank you for your time, and
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Christian Habinski. I'm an attorney from the law firm of Sills, Cummins & Gross, One Riverfront Plaza in Newark. We represent Heller Industrial, the owner of nearly 70 acres of property here in Franklin, including 5 properties developed with warehouse and distribution facilities and 4 properties that are vacant but are planned for some future development. As the council may be aware, Heller's operated in the township for over 40 years. Its facilities employ local residents. They pay more than $800,000 in taxes each year. And Heller has provided significant contributions to the township over the years, including efforts towards the senior center. As such, they're just as much a member of this community as anyone else. You may recall that our office has appeared before this body and the planning board to object to these warehouse-related zoning efforts in the past, explaining how these types of proposals would be devastating to Heller's current operations and future plans. We're here again this evening objecting to this ordinance, proposing to eliminate warehousing as a permitted use in the BI zone. We implore you to vote no on this latest iteration of the ordinance. We offer the following 4 reasons why this body should vote in the negative tonight. First, the township failed to provide a meaningful opportunity for Heller and the other affected property owners to participate in the process, including at the January 11th, 2023 work session of the planning board and the January 18, 2023 public hearing of the planning board. Second, the purported master plan update conducted by the planning board is anything but a comprehensive reexamination of the master plan. Look no further than the 2020 rezoning of our property, which was done only after a comprehensive master plan examination. Here, the township failed to study and or quantify the alleged traffic impacts that would be caused by additional warehouse development. In fact, some of the uses still permitted in the BI zone, like manufacturing, bring the same amount or even more traffic and can have a much greater impact on the environment. Moreover, the township failed to update the circulation element, and there was no traffic study that was commissioned as part of the reexamination report. Third, there was no sufficient study done on how this will impact the township's affordable housing obligations or how it will impact the township's tax revenue. It would almost unquestionably have a negative impact on the tax base. And lastly, the State Planning Commission's guidance that was used as a basis for this type of action and was touted was not followed. In fact, this state planning guidance recommended that municipalities work with the property owners and residents to come up with narrowly tailored ways of controlling warehouse development. Here, this guidance was not followed, and it actually discourages outright bans like what's being proposed here tonight. As such, please consider voting down this ordinance and allow Heller and others a meaningful opportunity to participate in the process here so we can together come up with a way of controlling future warehouse growth that satisfies the legal requirements and recognizes the decades of contributions that our client has made to this community. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
My name is Margie Taylor. I live at Canal Walk, Saratoga Court. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a planner. I'm a resident and a citizen of this community. I heard some disturbing things from previous speakers. When we need a formal study to determine the traffic impact, I think that most of us can figure out that the warehouses will add to our traffic. Now, warehouses against manufacturing. How many trucks come for manufacturing versus how many trucks and cars would be for warehouse? There's a big difference in car traffic and truck traffic. As far as, I'm not sure of the other items, but I would think that the residents should be able to decide, why do we need a study? If most of the people in town don't want this, why do we need a formal study? That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
She doesn't get paid $600 an hour.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Neither do I.
Anyone else wishing to speak? You're out of order.
I'm sorry.
Hi, good evening. It's Marlon Kwan, 28 Jay's Corner. I find some of the comments tonight quite humorous myself. I won't repeat what I said at the previous reading of this ordinance at the last Township meeting. However, I will repeat the statement that Franklin Township belongs to everyone. Not just the special interests of those represented by high-priced attorneys that will do anything, and I mean anything, to push through their agendas. Planners and other professionals are also hired on the basis that they can skew information to bolster their arguments, quite frankly. I know because we've hired some, right, in the past. But they, along with their attorneys, have no regard for the citizens of this town. Only their business owners, their clients. Traditionally, warehouses are not what is being built today. Residents of this town who have not been called part of a mob, who have been called part of a mob, and I repeat that because this is the kind of thinking that these attorneys would love to call the residents of Franklin Township, that oppose what they want to push as their agenda. Well, it's time we do take back the health and well-being as priorities over greed. Not only are these concrete boxes unsightly, they do not belong in or near residential communities. It is fair to say we believe in progress in industry. However, everything has its place. Arguments of who was there first is moot. Large swaths of homes and nearby schools dictate health issues override any other argument that can be made in the BI zone or other areas of Franklin Township. Ratables cannot supersede life and health issues. It is fair to say none, if not most of their clients, do not live in Franklin Township, nor do they have any apathy on quality of life for others. It's all about greed. The more attorneys can argue, the more they can make. They are desensitized. We applaud the council for taking this step, and we as a community say enough is enough. Please vote yes to pass this ordinance. My only dismay is that it did not come soon enough. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am not against warehouses.
Name and address.
I am not against having a good piece of cheesecake for dessert.
Sir, name and address.
Too much.
Sir, name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Michael Bryan, 40 Bryan Court. I am not against warehouses. I am not against having a good piece of cheesecake for dessert, but too much of either causes problems. I came here to Franklin Township. I looked at the community, I liked it, and I compared my taxes that I was paying in my previous town for the house the same square footage. My taxes here are just about half. I hear attorneys and people pro-warehousing saying that if we don't have more warehousing, our taxes are going to soar. That could be true in other towns. It's not true in Franklin. I've read the financials here. You guys doing a fairly good job. I don't see my taxes going up more than a few $100s every year, and that's because of inflation. Previous councils in all towns, including Franklin, I think have made mistakes in planning and zoning. There has to be a balance in a community of low-income housing, retail, warehouses, and also million-dollar houses. And I think that's what this council is trying to achieve. The mistake was made here when so many office buildings were built. Look what happened. They can't rent them. They're tearing them down. I look at all the warehouse signs here. I see for lease. I don't see any signs that say leased. So what's going to happen? Are we going to be in a situation years from now like we are with the office buildings where they have to figure out to tear them down and build something else? These warehouses are not being leased. They're all put up on spec. I live in New Jersey for over 80 years. I'm very happy in my Garden State. I do not want my license plate to say Warehouse State. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Zaharchek. I'm at 4 Constitution Way in Somerset. I spoke at the prior meeting, so I am assuming that my comments will be part of the record. I do want to add something, however, after listening to the attorneys for the developers speak, as I did at the prior meeting and this meeting, and I think they just pleaded my case. I have been of the belief, because my background is risk management and insurance, and healthcare insurance specifically. And I've spoken before to this council, I've spoken to the zoning board, and I absolutely believe and am in favor of the moratorium. I think we need a timeout. I think it's good, I think it's appropriate, and if anything, I agree with the attorney who said, perhaps we do need more studies. Perhaps we do need long-term health and wellness studies to see what the impact of the continual uncontrolled building in this state is doing to its citizens. Perhaps none of you have sat with a genetic counselor or had genetic counseling and been told your cancer is environmental. But this state does need to put the brakes on. This town, I applaud you for taking a step in the right direction. Any healthcare actuary would tell you we need a timeout, and you're doing the right thing, and I thank you.
Nirmal Shah, 9 Congress Court, Somerset. I spoke last time as well, and I just want to tell the developers that passing of this ordinance doesn't mean that there cannot be any warehouses that can be built in Somerset Township, in this township. There is a way for them to bring their plans to the zoning board, and the zoning board can give you a variance to build a warehouse. So there is no reason why you have to think that this ordinance will stop building any warehouses, except that, now you can present your case, the zoning board will review it, and you should be able to build it if they pass your plans. So, I really do think that this is the right move, that this indiscriminate building of warehouses is taken away, and that we now control the building of the warehouses through the zoning board permissions. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor, looking like there's no one else coming forward, I'll motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Moved in second, and all in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed. We have a motion on the item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in seconded. Any discussion on the item? Madam Clerk.
Deputy Mayor Barrison.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Potosnik.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay. It passes. We're on to ordinance on first readings, 4393, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, more particularly Chapter 183, Property Maintenance, Article 12, registration and maintenance of vacant and abandoned residential properties in foreclosure. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting and publication in accordance with law on a public hearing, and final adoption at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Township Chamber, in the Council Chambers. Do we have a motion on the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? This is basically just getting our foreclosure ordinances in line with the change in state law. Any other discussion?
What was the change in state law?
There were a number of things that came to the attention of our tax collector who administers this ordinance. This is the ordinance that requires banks and property owners that are of homes that are in foreclosure to register with the township, and our fee structure and several other issues were not in line with state law.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Barrison.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Potosnik.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Ordinance 4394-23, an ordinance accepting conservation easement from Orion, that's for Elizabeth Logistics Center, LLF, for premises known as Block 502.01, Lot 2.01, also known as 429 Elizabeth Avenue. The following ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, and publication in accordance with law, and a public hearing and final adoption at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on Tuesday, February 28th, 2023, at 7 p.m. in the Township Council chambers. Do I have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. It's a conservation easement. I don't know that it needs more description. Anyone else wishing to speak? Or any other discussion? Sorry. Madam Clerk.
Deputy Mayor Barrison?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Petosnik?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Ordinance 4395-23, authorizing vacation and acceptance of emergency access easement in connection with the Orion 4 Elizabeth Logistics Center LLC, Block 502.01, Lot 2.01, 429 Elizabeth Avenue. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on Tuesday, February 28th, 2023, at 7 p.m. in the council chambers. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second? Moved in second. Seconded. Again, pretty straightforward as to what this means. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk.
Deputy Mayor Barrison?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois? Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Petosnik?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
On to the consent agenda, item number 15. Items A through N is listed in the consent agenda. Portion of the meeting are presented to Township Council for adoption. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone want to pull an item or discuss an item?
Member, Mayor just asked that we vote on letter J, 23-066 separately.
Okay, it's the right of any council member to pull any particular item and voted on it separately.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Resolution 23057, support the Township Council of Franklin, authorizing the submittal of a grant application in the amount of $20,000 to Sustainable Jersey for a study and implementation of a trail improvements at Neiman Williams Memorial Park. I was present at that meeting of the open space, and I do want to thank the mayor for, again, pulling my coattail on that and telling me that I need to go to open space for that particular meeting. And being that Neiman Williams Park is in my backyard, I wholeheartedly hope the application comes through from Sustainable Jersey. And that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
Unless the township manager wants the buzz, but other than that, that's it.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, on A through N except for J.
Deputy Mayor Barrison?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Petosnik?
Yes, I'm going to abstain from 15A.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Item J, Resolution 23-066, appointment of the 2023 Land Use Open Space Parks and Recreation Standing Committee. Do we have a motion? Moved, and do we have a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Deputy Mayor Barrison?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Petosnik?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
No.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
My script is cut off, but we are on to, there are no items to be voted on separately. Old business, 2023 boards, committees, and commissions vacancies. Do we have any nominations? Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. There is a Somerset County Cultural and Heritage Commission at the county level. Typically, municipalities send a representative from the township, so it's our turn to send Ross Sherman to that commission, so I nominate her.
Nomination for Rod Sherman for the commission. Any other for that anyone else nominated for that position? Hearing none, we can do it by acclamation. All in favor of Rod Sherman, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Congratulations, Roz. Any other?
I have two more. We have Franklin Township has a historic Preservation Advisory Council. I'd like to nominate Carla Visser to that commission as well.
Carla Visser, okay, and any other nominations for that position? Do it again by acclamation. All in favor of Carla Visser, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion is carried. What else?
One last one. There's a vacancy in Franklin Township Sewerage Authority Board. So the screening committee recommended Tamiz Faruqi to the board as an alternate member.
Any other nominations for that position? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is, I'm sorry, any abstentions? Carried. We have any other nominations? And I will nominate Renika Hilbert for the planning board. I think it's the second alternate position. That's the only position open on the planning board. Are there any other nominations for that position? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Any abstentions?
I'll abstain. I work with Rebecca, so I'll abstain from this.
Okay, it passes. Congratulations, Rebecca. And we have no executive session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. We are adjourned. Be well, Franklin.
Night, Frank.